It makes two major amendments to the existing law. The first being that in section 2, it includes a proviso that amends the definition of illegal immigrants and states that the Hindus, Sikh, Christians, Parsis and Buddhists and Jains from Afghanistan, Bangladesh and Pakistan who have come to India before 31st December of 2014 will not be treated as illegal immigrant.
Previously, you had to stay in this country for 11 years by way of residence, or you had to be in government service for 11 years in order for you to be considered for the process of citizenship by naturalization. Okay, as opposed to that, these 6 communities coming from these 3 specific countries who are being persecuted on a religious basis get an exemption to the extent that 11 years is being substituted for 5 years. That's it. That is the limited extent.
If the classification is based on the fact that these countries have a state religion, that is Islam, then why not include Sri Lanka? Because Sri Lanka has a Buddhist state religion and the Hindus and the Muslims have been coming to India. We have seen in past there has been a huge refugee issues also with during the violence in Sri Lanka. If the classification is that only the countries who are part of undivided India are to be included, then why include Afghanistan? If the classification is of only giving a place to citizenship to those who have run away from persecution, why exclude Rohingyas? There is no classification, proper classification, there is no proper objective in this. So anyone who may have come to India from these countries belonging to these religions for economic reason as well will be given citizenship. Now this will be very detrimental to our resources, first of all. And second, if in your magnanimity you want to compromise with the existing resources, even though we are suffering a lot of unemployment and everything and lack of resources, if you want to compromise, you have to, why exclude Muslims in that case? Why only include these religions?
Undivided India, which includes Pakistan, Bangladesh and current India and Afghanistan, has been a territory where there has been a traditional transmigration of populations. As a consequence of which, all of these entities are to be treated together because they have had a relationship in the past in some way or the other. Okay? Therefore, this particular legislation decides to focus its attention and its energies to these 3 areas and asks itself, who are the persecuted minorities on a religious basis as far as these 3 territories are concerned? And since they've been in India for at least 5 years, therefore they should have been in India for at least a period of 5 years, dating back from 31st of December 2014, so that they are considered for the purposes of fast tracking of the citizenship process, because you can't send them back. Is it anybody's case that all the 40 to 50,000 people who have come to India as refugees are necessarily terrorists? I think that would be an atrocious statement to make. I don't think that's anybody's position at all. But when it comes to security concerns, you operate on the basis of caution. You err on the side of caution.
When we say that Muslims in these countries are not persecuted, then are we losing our strategic advantage that we had on Pakistan when we said that the Shias are in danger? Or in Afghanistan, when Hazaras are in danger, or Ahmadiyas are in danger in terms of Pakistan. These communities are not a monolith communities. They are different sects. Those sects have also been persecuted in Pakistan, and that has always been our foreign policy. That has always been something that we believed in. No one is saying that these non-Muslims are not persecuted in these countries. Yes, they are. But then there are others as well. Why only create a distinction based on religion and bring in a religion-based classification in what has always been a secular law?
As far as Citizenship Act is concerned, and as far as this particular amendment is concerned, there is no obligation under either constitutional law or under the Citizenship Act for the government to come out with a broad-based, all-encompassing, all-inclusive policy, because it is entirely dependent on security considerations. Why? The moment you do that, you have to take into account, let's say, who are the persecuted communities across the world. That is always done on a case-to-case basis, based on what the intelligence bureau says, based on what security experts say.
Apprehensions are real. Not everyone has documents. Of 10 people I spoke to, at least 9 did not have birth certificates. And even birth certificates do not necessarily specify that you were born at this particular place. They may give the date, they may not give the place. Now, how do you prove your citizenship in that case? What documents? Then you go to the list A, list B document that were for Assam. If you exclude the 1951 NRC because it was exclusively for Assam, for the rest of the documents are voter lists. Then our experience is that in FT, these voter lists have, even if there is a slight error in the spelling of name, people have been excluded, people have been thrown out, people have been put in detention center. In July this year, if I'm not mistaken, there was an amendment in the Foreigner Tribunal order where the other states were asked to create detention centers and establish foreigner tribunals. So whatever is happening is leading us towards an exclusionary exercise, a very, very communal and xenophobic exclusionary exercise. So if a person of a Muslim faith is excluded from NRC, he will have to, before foreigner tribunal, with a great difficulty, prove that he is an Indian citizen. Whereas a non-Muslim, and again with a great difficulty, because it will not be easy for them also to prove, because many are not from Pakistan, Bangladesh or Afghanistan. So how do a Hindu also prove that he is from these states, these countries? Now there are no rules. This act has not been notified.
If you take a look at the list of documents which are acceptable for NRC in Assam, you will be astounded and you'll ask yourself, in this day and age where almost everybody seems to have a mobile phone and therefore you're expected to give some kind of an identification document when you buy a mobile phone and a SIM card, or at least a SIM card, what is the document from those list of documents that most people will not have? And Aadhaar has almost proliferated in most places. Right? So if you were to give Aadhaar, and if government were to make Aadhaar as a document which is necessary for a nationwide NRC, how many people will be effectively left out of it? I have to ask this question. Therefore, the only people who must be worried, who should be concerned and who should be disturbed are people who are illegal migrants. Okay, nobody else.
These protests are a result of a black law. This law cannot be read in isolation. This is a Citizenship Act.
I think the last few days have exposed the utter ignorance of most people who are protesting on the streets when they are asked the blunt question, what is the CAA about?
There is ambiguity on this, and this ambiguity has also fueled the fire. This, coupled with all the persecution, the police brutality that happened, has caused this unending protest against CAA.
Nobody can take away anybody's democratic right to protest. Okay? But you have to draw a line between burning and destroying public property in the name of the protest. If your right is that this is my country and I will stay, you don't prove your point by burning down your home.